Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. Let's start the discussions on the current events of the day, that is 9th December 2017. The first issue news today is regarding the display of state emblem of India on the cars of constitutional authorities like the President, Prime Minister, Chief Minister, etc. The issue is in news because recently an NGO has claimed in the Delhi High Court that the vehicles of various dignitaries of the state display the state emblem rather than the registration numbers, making those cars easy targets for terrorists and anyone with ulterior motives. The NGO has also contested that the display of state symbol instead of registration numbers shows the mentality of the executive to rule rather than to serve, which is because it differentiates from the rest of the crowd or the general public. The President's office previously has denied any information relating to the registration details of the cars used by the President, citing threats to physical safety of the President. This denial of information by a public authority is in contrary to the provisions under the Right to Information Act, and the Delhi High Court has sought directions from the Delhi state government as well as the police authorities to seize such cars which do not have registration with the state authorities. The petition also argues that in the absence of any identification mark of the car like a registration number, any person who is involved with an accident with such a car cannot bring any claim against it. We can recollect that the Union government had banned the use of red beacons on government vehicles in the past. We'll look into the issue in further detail as it unfolds. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news today,
which is regarding the adultery law in the IPC or the Indian Penal Code. The Supreme Court has recently said that the adultery provisions in the Indian Penal Code treated women as subordinate to her husband and has admitted a petition to drop adultery as a criminal offense. In the opinion of the court, Section 497 of the IPC always treats man as the offender and the woman in an extramarital relationship as a victim. Also, according to Section 497, the case of adultery is determined on the basis of whether the husband of the woman has consented to the adulterous act, thereby treating women as a property of her husband without a mind of her own, and only the husband of the woman or the person nominated by him can file a complaint under the Section 497 of the IPC. As it is evident from our discussion, it highlights the traditional and outdated thinking about women and the law under Section 497, which was formulated at a time when women were considered man's property. The Supreme Court, however, has upheld the validity of Section 497 in the past, but the growing voice for women equality and the constitutional provisions which confer equal status to both man and woman, perhaps a time has come to relook into the law. Yesterday too, we looked into an issue involving the rights of a Parsi woman to follow her religious beliefs. Given the various issues surrounding women's rights, ranging from entry to religious places to uniform civil code to abolition of triple talaq, the issue is important from the point of view of examination, and I request you to go through the previous videos. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news today, which is regarding the pharma sector and the stress needed on the delivery of high quality medicines. The news item is talking about the importance of the delivery of high quality medicines, which includes the fact that the Indian pharmaceutical market is the third largest in the world, and India is the largest provider of generic drugs globally. As you know, a generic drug is an unbranded drug with the same chemical composition and efficacy as a branded drug. It is important to maintain the quality of the drugs manufactured in India because the major sale of our drugs occur in the US, EU and Japanese markets, and recently there have been multiple negative actions taken by the United States Food and Drug Administration Department. Apart from this, it is also important because the micro, small and medium enterprise sector of India contributes around 70% of the drugs manufactured, and the lack of quality management has become a hindrance in their development. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news today, which is regarding the clearance given by Pakistan authorities allowing the wife and mother of Kulbhushan Jadhav to meet him on humanitarian considerations. As we know, Pakistan authorities had arrested Kulbhushan Jadhav on charges of spying and had sentenced him to death. India had appealed against its decision in the International Court of Justice and had demanded consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav, and the ICJ had stayed the execution of Mr. Jadhav. As the matter is sub judice, we'll look into the issue once the ICJ ruling on the matter is out. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news today, which is regarding India's entry into the Wassenaar Arrangement. Yesterday too, we had seen Russia's support to India's entry into the nuclear suppliers group as well as the Wassenaar Arrangement. It had insisted the Chinese too to support India's bid. As we know, Wassenaar Arrangement is an international grouping which controls the export of dual-use goods and technologies, which are used for both civilian as well as military purposes. The entry of India into this grouping will make it easier to access cutting-edge technologies. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news today, which is regarding the recent breakthrough reached between Britain and the European Union post-Brexit. As we know, Brexit, or Britain's exit from the European Union, was the result of the referendum held in the United Kingdom. The issues which led to Britain exiting from the European Union range from economic reasons like the membership fees charged by the European Union on Britain, the sovereign debt crisis in which Britain was also severely affected, the issue of immigration and the growing resentment in Britain due to rising unemployment, and finally the issue of sovereignty of Britain due to the increased interference of European Union in the political affairs of Great Britain. The recent deal reached between the Britain and European Union is important from India's perspective too, as London is the financial hub of Europe and many Indian companies have looked upon Britain as the gateway to the European Union and have invested heavily in the country. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news today, which is regarding the recent free trade agreement signed between China and the Maldives. The issue is important because Maldives is an important country in the Indian Ocean region in both economic as well as strategic interests of India, which can be negatively affected due to increased Chinese presence in the region. I have covered the issue in depth as well as the nature of Chinese involvement in the region and the string of pearls theory in my previous videos. I request you to go through the same. With that, let's move on to the other issues in news today, which is mostly related to the various responses worldwide to the recent remarks made by US President Donald Trump on the recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital, which includes an editorial on the issue as well as protests in Kashmir and various other Muslim and Arab countries across the world. I have discussed the issue in detail in my previous videos and I request to those who have missed them to go back and watch the same. The next issue is the denial of the Supreme Court to grant interim relief to the toddy sector in Kerala to be included under the definition of alcohol. The Supreme Court had previously banned all liquor outlets on state and national highways due to the rising number of accidents due to negligent driving. We'll further look into this issue once the final judgment is out and its various implications on the freedom of choice of the individual. The final issue in news today is regarding the recent collapse in price of the Bitcoin after surging to record highs. I have covered the issue in detail regarding why there was a sudden spike in demand for Bitcoins as well as the vulnerability of the Bitcoin. And I request those who have not seen the previous videos to go back and watch the same. With that, I wrap up today's news analysis. Thank you. Have a nice day.